Look at Law is underwritten by the generous support of Bond, Schoeneck, and King. Knowledgeable, professional, and accessible.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's face it, one of the basic tenets of our democracy are the rights and the protections for the individuals. And when it comes to that, there are plenty of questions that all of us face with regard to the law, what it means to us, how we're protected by it, and the questions we should ask to make certain that our independence is protected. So we're starting a series, a look at law, and we went right to the top. We went to Bond, Schoeneck, and King to make certain that we could work with a law firm that has an expertise in a number of different areas. And joining me today is Michael Billok, who is a member of Bond, Schoeneck, and King. Welcome, Michael.
Well, thank you.
Very nice to have you here. We went right to the top with Bond, Schoeneck, and King, and we're going to go to probably the most controversial issue out there right now, harassment, sexual harassment, but not only specifically sexual harassment, but harassment in general in the workplace and how individuals are affected by it. We hear in the news every day. I think it started with Weinstein about a year ago. The Me Too movement came out of that. Big issue in contemporary society, right?
Absolutely. We started, I think it was last fall when the first story broke, and then more stories about Weinstein broke, and that started a deluge of accusations against a number of very high-profile individuals, politicians, actors, celebrities, things of that nature. And to the point where every day we'd see not just accusations against one person, but two or three for quite a while. And while the numbers have dwindled down, we're still seeing the after effects of this more than half a year later.
You know, it's a topic that when you become aware of it, it's almost like a light goes on. And you think, oh my God, have I been guilty of it myself? Have I been in a situation where I didn't realize it was uncomfortable for someone, but it was? So there's an absolute learning curve on that. But the one thing that, people will say to me, Michael, is you can take a Weinstein, you take a Cosby, right? Very high profile cases that include assault. And then you have other occasions with someone like Tom Brokaw recently, or an Al Franken, where it wasn't really perceived as assault, but it was perceived as a violation. How do you equate the two? Can you equate the two? Does it make a difference?
It does make a difference, especially for clients and employers, if they have somebody that's committed sexual harassment, you want the remedy to be appropriate for that person. If that person has committed assault or something in that regard, not only are you terminating that person, you're calling law enforcement. Whereas if somebody has made, let's say, a few jokes or something in that regard, you might recommend discipline or counseling or suspension, depending on the number, but not necessarily termination if it doesn't reach quite to that level.
Me Too movement came out of this.
Yes.
Across the board, everyone really supports that effort. Time's up, right? Has this now finally reached a threshold where it's affecting state laws, legislation?
Absolutely. The New York State Legislature and the budget that was just passed, a lot of people are unaware that it wasn't just the budget, that they passed several laws that affect sexual harassment claims in New York. In terms of employees, they can't be required to arbitrate sexual harassment claims. They can't be required to do that. They have to be able to bring that in court. In terms of the state agencies, they're not allowed, state agencies or courts can't approve a settlement that has a confidentiality provision regarding sexual harassment unless the employee themselves wants it, in which case they have to be given a certain amount of time to make sure that's what they want. But I think that one of the largest effects is that all employers within the next several months are going to have to start training their employees annually. The New York State Division of Human Rights has been charged with basically putting out a model template policy that everybody will have to adopt at least as a minimum, as well as train on that policy every year. So that's a very big change for some New York State employers.
And that will be an ongoing process, as I understand it. You know, it is back in the day, you know, you would fulfill a qualification of a training session or something. Okay, wipe your hands, I'm done with that. This has to be ongoing, correct?
Correct. It's ongoing, required to be annual. And as you mentioned, that there are some employers that just do the training and it's a check the box sort of thing.
Yeah,
but
right,
the better employers do more comprehensive training, in-person training. They really want to convey to their employees this is not just a check-the-box situation. We want to make sure that you know that we want you to be protected from not just sexual harassment, but harassment on any basis, racial harassment, religious harassment, etc. And we want you to know where to go if this happens and that you're free to go to whether it's human resources or your supervisor, etc., without any fear of retaliation.
What advice do you give your clients or employers or someone in the workforce when these questions are coming up now? What, as a result of these changes, as a result of the way society's awareness seems to have shifted, what kind of advice?
Well, the first thing I'd say is not to focus solely on sexual harassment. That harassment or discrimination on any protected status is prohibited. It's tempting to only focus on that since it's in the news, but exactly. Second is to do those preventative measures in terms of letting employees know where they can go if they believe that not only if they've experienced it, but if they know if somebody else has. The see something, say something type of atmosphere you want to have if they do see sexual harassment of a friend or a coworker to go ahead and report it. And then third, if something does happen, it comes to the attention of an employer, to go ahead and to do a thorough investigation of it.
That's an important point. In the conversations I've had with people about this, investigation doesn't necessarily mean go to the person that's being accused immediately, but to actually understand that you need to build the information base so that when you actually do go to the person that's being accused, you have that story locked.
Exactly. There's a number of times I've gotten a call where from an employer where somebody's been accused of harassment. They got that complaint from the person. They go to the person that's accused of it, says, "Did you do that?" They say no, and they say, "What do we do? We're in a bind."
Yeah, exactly right.
And at that point, you could still act, continue to act, but need to back out of that and to get as much information as you can from the person making the complaint, and then go to the documents. These days, there's almost always text messages, whether it's time records, emails, other types of things to review first, and then go to any witnesses that might be involved, anybody that the person complaining might want you to talk to. You can ask them, is there anybody else you'd like to talk to that might support your claim? And only after you've got all that information to go ahead and talk with the accused once you have all of that information that you can work with. And something that's very key, both when taking the complaint initially and when talking to the accused, is to have an open mind. Sometimes employers get that complaint from an employee thinking, all right, well, this is very serious, this almost certainly happened, or it's the employee that's on their way out the door and they think, this probably didn't happen, they're just trying to save their hide.
Yes, right, I got it. You know, the important thing there is to get the information, that it can tend to be emotional, right?
Absolutely.
You see that all the time. But the most important thing is to get the information. I encourage anybody, bsk.com. And you can find out more information. If you're facing this yourself, you own a business where you're worried about, being prepared, there's so many aspects to this. And let's face it, it is a very, very hot topic. And it's something that probably the society should have faced a long time ago, but sure is facing it now. So Michael, great. By the way, in the weeks to come, believe it or not, the next topic that we're going to be talking about is tip credit. It happens to hit Saratoga pretty hard right now. So, Michael, thank you, and thanks for agreeing to do this series.
Absolutely.
It's just really very important information for our viewers. Thanks.
Thank you.
See you next time. To see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.